We're between Pesach and Shavuos, and we have to realize that they're not two discrete holidays, but there's an intimate connection, even more than most of us realize. The goal of leaving Egypt, Yetzias Mitzrayim, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, what's the sign that I'm the one who sent you to leave Egypt? The goal of leaving Egypt is to get to Sinai to receive the Torah. Now, if you did your Pesach correctly, if you did your Pesach Seder correctly, then Chayev Adam liros es atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim. You have to really feel that you are leaving Egypt. And if you did that properly, then you have to also feel that you're on your way to actually you receiving the Torah at Sinai on Shavuos. That's part of the continuation from Pesach to Shavuos. Now, there's a very strange observation when we look at the mitzvah of the Omer, because we're in Sfirat Haomer. So the Torah gives us in the Parshat HaMoadim, Eila Moadei Hashem Mikroi Kodesh Asher Tigru Moadam. Here are the holidays. B'chodesh Harishon be'arba'asar lachodesh, on the 14th of the first month, you have to bring the Korban Pesach, and you have to eat it on the night. Chamishasar Yom Chag HaMatzos. Yom Tov the first day, Yom Tov the second day, bring Korbanos. Okay? And the seventh day is also Yom Tov, and you can't eat matzah, you can't eat chametz for 7 days. We're finished. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe leimor, and then the next parsha, after we finish Pesach, Daber b'nei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem ki tavo el haaretz asher ani noten lachem u'ktzartem ketzira. The Torah starts telling us about the mitzvah of Korban Haomer, which is going to be on the second day of Pesach. And it tells you how to do the Korban HaOmer, and then it tells you to count the days from Pesach, from the Omer till Shavuos. And there's a glaring problem here. There's actually two problems. This is out of order. The Korban HaOmer is on the second day of Pesach, but we already finished talking about Pesach. Why did we finish Pesach and then we go back to the second day of Pesach? That's problem number one. Problem number two is, what is this doing here in the Parsha of the Moadim? The holidays. This is a korban. Korban HaOmer is a korban which belongs in Parshas Pinchas, when all of the korbanot are described. Okay, so there's something going on here that we have to appreciate. Okay, that it's happening on the second day of Pesach, and yet it's only discussed independent of Pesach. There's another very strange statement in Chazal, and again, especially if you have already began to understand the process of the default and the move off the default. The Medrash says like this: La'olam lo tihi mitzvahs haomer kala be'einecha. You should never take the mitzvah of Omer, the Korban Omer. You should never take it lightly. And it gives you, because through the Omer, Avraham Avinu was meriting to get Eretz Yisrael, and through the Omer sacrifice, which is barley, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings marital harmony between a husband and a wife when she's suspected of adultery, and therefore, don't take this korban lightly. What was your default? Why are you even thinking to treat Korban HaOmer any different than any other mitzvah? It's a korban, it's a mitzvah. Why do we need to be admonished not to take it lightly? And then what's the connection between getting Eretz Yisrael because of the Omer? Okay. And of course, anytime we talk about the Sfirat HaOmer and the Omer period and the Omer sacrifice, we're confronted with the Gemara in Yevamos, Shnei Masar Elev Zugim Talmidim Hayulol Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 chavrusas, and Kulan Metu Beperik Echad, and all of them died at one season. Mipnei Shalok Nahagu Kavod Zelezeh. And when did that happen? It happened between Pesach and Shavuos. And the problems just jump out at you. 24,000 Talmidim? Try to imagine what that looks like. That's the whole Mir Yeshiva, the whole Chevron Yeshiva, the whole Panovich Yeshiva, and much, much more, all dying within a few weeks. Because lo nagu kavod zeh b'zeh, what does that mean? What kind of respect did they, or what kind of disrespect did they exhibit? We're not talking here about criticizing them for not respecting the doctors and the lawyers. We're not talking about criticizing them for not respecting the guys who didn't wear the same kind of kippah or shtreimel as them. We're talking here about peers in one base medrash. What did they not respect about each other? And why was the punishment delivered during the Sphira period? These are the questions we have to understand if we want to understand what we're supposed to be experiencing and where we're going from Pesach to Shavuos. So Rabbi Yoshe Soloveitchik has a fascinating insight about the relationship between Pesach and the Omer. There are two systems in which a person interacts with the Almighty. There are two systems in which a person relates to the Almighty. One is divine revelation, miracles. Kodesh Baruch Hu appears, and that creates a relationship. That's Pesach. Pesach was a relationship with God that was miraculous. And that was the Exodus, and that was going through the desert, and that was even Shavuos, Ma'amad Har Sinai, prophecy, miracles. There's a tangibility that is supernatural. But there's another way that we are supposed to relate to God. And that's through nature. And nature is much more scary than miracles. Because nature is unpredictable. Nature doesn't seem to have a pattern. And it's confusing. But we have to live in nature and relate to God. So, the second system relating to God through nature, that's the Omer. Because what are we being? We're bringing barley as the sacrifice. Barley is viewed as the lowest level grain. Wheat is the highest level grain. Barley is animal food. And we're bringing a sacrifice dafka right after Pesach from animal food. The Jews are in Mem Tet Sharei Tumah. The Jews are in the 49th level of depravity of Tumah. And they had a great relationship with God through miracles. But that's not how we're going to be running our lives when we get to Israel. That's not how we're going to relate to God on an ongoing basis. The ongoing basis has to be relating to God through the natural system, through the natural order. And they're at the lowest level of depravity, and in 49 days, they're supposed to stand at Sinai to receive the Torah. How does that happen? How do we go from Mem Tet Sharei Tumah to standing at Sinai? The secret of going from the lowest level of Tumah to the highest level of receiving Torah is Mitzvat Haomer. 49 days going one step at a time. If you guys pay attention in the Siddur, when you're counting Mitzvat Haomer there, you see at the end there's Gvura Shebechesed and Netzach Shebehod. Those are midos. Every day there's a midah. And every day there's supposed to be a little bit of spiritual growth, one day at a time. Now, a person finds himself on a low spiritual level. What does the Yetzer Hara tell you when you're on a low spiritual level? Throw in the towel. Nothing to do. Look how low you are. Look where you are. And what Mitzvat Haomer tells us is that if you stick with it and realize, there's no miracle pill to take to grow, but one step at a time has the potential to get you from the lowest level to the highest level. And one of our problems is that we don't appreciate that wherever we are, we have potential to grow. we have potential to improve. Do we even think that we need to improve? One of the banes of certain approaches, I'm very happy where I am. I'm okay, you're okay. Well, everything's fine. Why do I have to grow? I'm okay. Well, that means you're only looking at what you are and not what you could be. I always like to quote a research study that was done. It was actually a consultant came back with a report that he's conducting performance reviews. You guys know what performance reviews are? Well, there's also self-assessment. Everybody's supposed to fill out a thing. Okay? Please list all your good qualities. Okay? And then after that, please list the things you need to improve. And he was astounded that so many of those questionnaires came back with lots of stuff filled out on the good qualities. And what do you need to improve? NA. This is real. NA. Not applicable. Think about that. Think what that says. Okay? Character improvement is not applicable. So, that's because we don't look at potential. We don't look at quality. We don't look at growth. We don't look at how do we become better. Chazal are telling us that it's a problem. Mitzvat Haomer, what kind of grain are we using for the Omer? Barley, animal, stuff. That's not significant. That's not important. We could take something that on the surface, when you look at it as this on the surface, it doesn't look very important. And Chazal are saying that's a very big danger. And we're warning you not to do that. Why? Well, what does Eretz Yisrael have to do with getting Eretz Yisrael? What we have in the barley is the potential for spiritual. How do we see potential? Because we're bringing it, the Kohen is bringing the barley as a korban, just like he's bringing the wheat as a korban. Spiritual potential in that barley, it's not on the surface, but it's hidden away. And the Torah is teaching us that even animal food has spiritual potential. How do we unlock that spiritual potential? How do we go from barley, animal food, all the way to wheat, human food? And the answer is Sfirat HaOmer. One step at a time. One day at a time. You want to grow. Hopefully everybody's here to grow. A bad secret. Growth is slow. You can microwave a potato into a baked potato in 7 minutes instead of 25 minutes. But you can't microwave a tomato seed into a tomato. And it so happens, I always like to mention this, that the real food connoisseurs can tell the difference between a microwaved potato and a slow-cooked potato. Growth is slow. And you have to realize, have patience, and realize that I'm not going to grow quickly. Animal food is animal food. It's certainly at a lower level than wheat. But we have to see the potential that exists. That's what the Korban HaOmer is telling us, is that you had a relationship with God in the miraculous way. Now you've got to relate to God in the physical, natural world, and nature works slowly. Growth, the miracles happen instantaneously. Chipazon. That's the Maral's proof, is that the redemption was a purely spiritual redemption because it happened without time. In the physical world, says the Maral, time and physicality go together. And if you want to grow and have a relationship with God in the physical world, it's got to incorporate time. Slow process. You looked at that barley, and the Torah is telling you better see the spiritual potential, which is hidden away. It's not on the surface. Students of Rabbi Akiva didn't have kavod for each other. What does that mean? What does the word kavod mean? The root of the word kavod, kaved, heavy, significant, gravitas. Well, we look at society. What do people give kavod to? Whatever they think is important. Lots of money is important, right? Hitting 60 home runs, or today I think 70 home runs is important, right? Scoring 60 points in a basketball game is important. Movie, being a multi-million seller, your movie, that's important. So we give cover to movie stars and to rich people and to politics, whoever you think is important. Kavod is what I think is significant. What's the true significance of a human being? What is the true significance of each person created B'Tselem Elokim? Your real deep significance is not what's on the surface. It's your potential. And your potential is hidden. If it's potential, then it's unlocked slowly. Potential doesn't come quickly. And apparently one of the ways to understand the problem with Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim is that they looked at their peers with what was on the surface. And they didn't appreciate the infinite potential that each of them had. And that's what was missing. We are taught from the Korban Haomer that the true significance is what's hidden away. It's the hidden potential. You want to unlock your potential. Well, the first thing you have to recognize you have potential. And one of our problems is we underestimate ourselves. We sell ourselves short. You come into the yeshiva and you can hardly read a Gemara. You don't even know what Rashi is. Maybe you finally found what it is, but you're breaking your head and you can't understand, and you just give out. You don't appreciate that somebody could start at the bottom in Rabbi Kwas's shiur. And if you work every day, step by step, you can reach Rabbi Schoonmaker's shiur and beyond. But there's a few things that you have to take into account. The first thing is you have to realize you have the potential. And that's very hard when you don't even know what Rashi is doing and which side of the page is Rashi and which side of the page is Tosfos. And you've got to realize, but you have potential. God gave each of us the Torah. We have potential to access that Torah. But, how do we do it? Well, we want the pill. We want the instant solution. And when we don't get that instant solution, we give up. That's the problem. We have to say, you have potential. And now what are you doing with that potential? Identify potential. That means you can improve. And you have to be ready now to go one painful step at a time. That's Mitzvat Haomer. One day and another day. And, it's an interesting thing is that a person doesn't really feel growth from day 7 to day 8. When it happens slowly, right, you don't really see it. Okay? But if you look at from the beginning to the end, right, you can't measure it day by day. You got to work day by day and know that there is a change day by day. It's happening day by day. But you may not feel it. But you have to know it's happening. And you have to be ready to suffer and work. Suffer means pain. It's painful. No pain, no gain. You've heard that before. Okay? It's not only true in the gym. Okay? It's also true in the Beis Medrash. The only way we can go from Mem Tet Shari Tuma to Kabbalat HaTorah is by counting Sphira one day at a time. Because you're way down there. You're in the depths of depravity. And yet somehow or other, you're supposed to get to the top. One day at a time. Mitzvat Haomer. And then you have to realize that as you're doing that, you're working towards Mamad Har Sinai the same way you are required to feel you are leaving Egypt. Emancipation, freedom. You have to feel then you are then going to be standing at Sinai. And that's a challenge. Shavuos is a powerful day. We don't make it powerful enough. It goes quickly. We have to feel, right? Moshe Shapell used to say that the old Yerushalmis, when they got up for Kriyas HaTorah and the Baal Kori is reading the Aseres HaDibros, You could feel their shuddering. They're standing at Sinai. It's hard work to feel that you're getting the Torah revelation on Shavuos. That is the result. If you spend your Mitzvat Haomer, your 49 days of Mitzvat Haomer, working day by day, it can happen. There's another aspect of Mitzvat Haomer. What do we work on in Mitzvat Haomer? If you pay attention, those little things that it says in the end, midot. Mitzvat Haomer is the work on midot. And each day is a different midah. And if you want to go from being down in the bottom in Egypt and get to Ma'amad Har Sinai, the work is midos. It's not simply more study. When you want to know how to grow spiritually, you want to become a Torah Jew, the Mitzvat Haomer teaches us the only way to get to Torah is through Tikkun HaMidos. This is where Musar comes in. You have to ask yourself, am I working on my Midos? Because without working on your Midos, you're blocked from being a true recipient of Torah. When the Mishnah talks about Memchet Dvarim Shatorah Nikneit Bahem, the Maharal points out that all of those are Midos. You want to acquire Torah, you got to work on your Midos. And that's part of the Sphira process. It shows us that to get from Yitzias Mitzrayim to Matan Torah, it happens through the work on the Midos. What does the Omer sacrifice have to do with getting Eretz Yisrael? It says in the merit of the Omer sacrifice, the Jewish people got Eretz Yisrael, and God makes marital harmony between a husband and a wife. Eretz Yisrael looks like a physical land, but it's spiritual. Where's the spiritual aspect of Eretz Yisrael? It is hidden. It's the potential. Potential is always hidden. Whatever you see on the surface, that's not potential. That's the actualization of potential, and actualization is always less than the real potential. So whatever you see, you've got to know that there can always be more. Eretz Yisrael is spiritual, but it's spiritual potential below the surface. We have to look below the surface. And anytime you want to access potential, you've got to be ready to spend time. Growth requires time. Unlocking your potential cannot happen quickly. And we're in a society. I mean, if it was bad 20, 30 years ago, today it's much worse. Everything has to be instant, right? And, we still remember when there was dial-up internet. Right? Remember dial-up internet, right? Okay, and then they went to ADSL. If your computer took 3 minutes to boot up, that was fast. Okay? When computers were evolving, one of the lessons we had is never borrow a computer that works faster than yours. Because afterwards you can never go back. When we get used to speed, everything has to be fast. Okay? So it's a big problem in growth because we want everything fast. Okay? And even food delivery, Amazon, right? Now Amazon has to sell it. They went from 2-day delivery to overnight delivery, and now if you pay enough money, same-day delivery. That was, by the way, the only reason why the malls still were in business a few years ago was because they wanted you wanted your product now, and you didn't want to wait 3 days, even though it was cheaper. You got it cheaper, but you know what? People still went to the store. I want it now. And Amazon figured out how to do that. Speed. So if you think speed, you have destroyed growth. Patience, slow, step by step. Eretz Yisrael, the potential is there, but it's hidden away. What about marital harmony, shalom bayis? So mostly marital strife happens because a husband and a wife are looking on the surface. They're not looking at potential. And if they looked at potential, And you've got to think about that. When you marry a woman, hopefully you're seeing the potential. Because if you're just doing what's on the surface, the relationship goes away very quickly. But you've always got to be looking at potential and realize whatever you see on the surface, there's always more to it. And it's true about Eretz Yisrael. It's true about our situation in Israel. One of our problems is we only look at the surface and we don't look at potential. Okay? And we're coming into the period now of celebrating the state of Israel. Whatever, it's good, it's bad. You'll hear from Rabbi Miller on Wednesday, I'm sure, a lot of things. But my opinion is whatever it is, we don't see the potential. And if we would see potential, we would be relating to it very differently. So Mitzvat Haomer is the mitzvah of taking the lowly animal food and bringing it to the Mizbeach as a sacrifice. Potential. You have to be aware of your potential. When you're going to be parents, you better be aware of your children's potential. One of the most disastrous things is not acknowledging the positive potential that every child has. Potential is there. You have to look below the surface, and then you have to be ready to work hard, roll up your sleeves, and spend time unlocking that potential. Each of you has to realize how much potential you have. The fact that you came here, whether you realize it or not, shows that you thought you have potential. Otherwise, what are you doing here? But somehow or other, you still haven't shed the desire for speed, fast, and miraculous results. So, introspect. Lots of potential, takes a lot of time. One of the ways to do it is work on your midos. And that's how we go from the Memtet Sharituma of Yitziat Mitzrayim. There was a miraculous exodus. That was miraculous. We didn't do anything. God did everything. But then right after that's over, the Torah goes back and says, besides the 7 days of Pesach, which are miraculous, now go back to the second day and bring a Korban HaOmer, which is part of the natural world, and that requires work, that requires insight. No one's going to do it for you. You have to see it, you have to work, and you have to unlock it. That's how we go from Pesach to Shavuos to Matan Torah.